And we're live. Hallelujah, YouTube. We had some trouble to get on, but we're here. We're here. Hello, Freedom Family. The topic today that we are chatting about on this live stream is food journals. Are they a good idea? Should you do them? What would my advice be there? For those of you who've just joined, my name's Helen Bennett. I'm a coach working with people who struggle with compulsive overeating, and I really help those people create deep food freedom. What does that mean? You can eat when you're hungry, stop when you're full, and not have all that obsession and compulsion around food in between. That's what I want to help you with in these lives. And today we're talking about the role that food journaling can play, if any. Now, trust me, I was somebody who wrote multiple food journals, and it never helped me at all. In fact, if anything, it just showed me how out of control my eating behaviors were at the time and just brought with it more shame. So if that's your experience as well, even more reason to just put down the idea of food journals. And by the end of this short little live stream, I'll give you a good indication of what I would suggest you do instead. Now, if you're watching this live stream later and you get value from the content, please smash the like button so that I will feel good about it and I'll know that it helped someone, but also, most importantly, so that we can get this information out to people who need to hear it. I know there are a lot of people out there struggling with feeling out of control, and oftentimes the way we think we need to deal with that is to be even more controlled. And food journals are the perfect example of what we might think logically should help. I'm feeling out of control. I keep losing control of my food. I'm overeating even though I'm intending not to. Maybe if I just write everything down, then I would be able to control the situation better and eat with more mindfulness and make better choices. That can work for a little while, particularly when you're highly motivated, but mostly it doesn't work for a number of reasons. So I'm going to dive into those today, and I'm going to give you a suggestion on what to do instead. So whatever journal you're using, if you're using one, hold on to it. But instead of tracking your food, I'm going to get you to track something else, which is much more powerful. Because here's the thing. The problem that you have with food, if you're watching this, has probably got nothing to do with the food itself. That's a bold statement because there's a lot of talk about addiction and processed foods being highly addictive. However, in my experience, when I work with people who will come onto a call with me saying, I'm telling you, Helen, I am a chocolate addict, only within a few weeks or months to be saying, oh no, I could have a bit of that and then I stopped. If it was addiction, they wouldn't be able to have just a little bit. So the way we define addiction, I define it differently, but the way the world sort of thinks about food is that, or about certain foods, is that they can be addictive. I would say, from my experience, my humble opinion of my own experience and with all the clients I've worked with, 99.9999% of the time, it's not that the food itself is just so addictive that you are powerless in the face of it, but that it is a well-engineered item, perhaps, yes, that's highly palatable and gets the dopamine rising and gives you a lot of pleasure. Yes, those can all be true. But paired with being in a place of pain, you might reach for that particular thing or reach for those kinds of foods. And of course, when we're in a place of emotional pain, we want to escape that pain. We want to get pleasure. And food's exceptionally good at bringing us pleasure. It's also very good at bringing us comfort and calm. And we can get that from food, or we get it when we nourish ourselves, but it feels so good that every time we feel any kind of discomfort, we then reach for it again. It's not that the food itself is the problem, it's that we've not really been taught, or ever taught, how to handle the discomfort of those feelings and what the narrative is in our mind that's telling us a story that's causing a lot of pain. So one of the things I teach is that the stories in our heads are not ours. Generally, we've come up with narratives and beliefs that we weren't born with, but we've learned them over time. And as an adult, we begin to take radical responsibility about turning the stories around, creating new narratives and beliefs, looking for what's true and what isn't. And we're going to dive deep into that. That's what I call headworm busting. It's really just watching for the narratives, where they're causing us emotional discomfort, and adulting up, starting to take radical responsibility for how we're reacting to certain things, which takes a lot of practice. And that's not something we're taught when we're younger. But in that place of discomfort, whether it's coming from an automatic emotion that's come up for us, maybe from repeated experience of something similar that brings a certain emotional traumatic blueprint to the surface, which we can't control, or just a narrative we're telling ourselves, which is painful, or combination of both, in that place, we tend to reach for something to escape that feeling. Now, one of the things we do with this work is to have to learn to ride the feeling. It's not fun. I like to call it the suck. It's icky, it's yucky, and it's not enjoyable, but it is far preferable to spiraling into eating or into binging in order to escape the feeling, and then dealing with not only the problem that's still there, but the shame and the guilt about what we've just done. So that's why I keep saying it's not about the food. So why would we journal the food? We think it's about the food because the food is what we're using to escape the feeling. But actually, as you do this work, you will start to see that it's whenever there's a sort of bingy out of control moment, not whenever, because there's time and place triggers, which might just be, it's 5 o'clock, that's what I've always done, so I always do it, and that we have to break, right? That's a habit. But 9 times out of 10, the really tricky stuff, it's got nothing to do with food. It's just that food was an available way of escaping an uncomfortable feeling. Now, sometimes that feeling is exhaustion. We spoke about this in one of the last weeks of our lives. And that's uncomfortable because there's a lot of work to be done, or we feel lazy if we're tired and we're not doing what we think we should be doing. So that's a whole thing we have to figure out. But there's usually some other uncomfortable emotions that begin to drive overeating and compulsive eating behavior. So the food is just the way that we're escaping, but the work is actually done in what's driving us to eat in the first place. So writing down what you eat isn't as interesting as what was going on for you when you ate it. So here's the two things. A food journal isn't really helpful because it's not showing us, it's only showing us what we eat. And if anything, like in my case, brings us more shame, right? What it is not showing us, it's what's driving us to overeat. When are we eating for non-hunger reasons? What the hell was going on there? So if you're somebody who's been thinking about using a journal, food journal, or you have been using one, you haven't found that helpful, what I'd suggest instead is, I want you to journal two things. Be disciplined about the journaling of this, because this is where you're going to get all the best information. Number one, what did my tummy want at the time? Now, the way I do that with clients is I teach them something called tummy check-ins, where you learn to try and listen to your physical sensations and to get a clear reading on what it is your body was asking for in that moment. And if you're not sure how to do that, that's no problem. There's a masterclass. The link is in the description. Check out the Food Freedom Foundation's masterclass. It's completely free at the moment. It comes with a bonus training where you'll learn how to listen for that signal. And that's something you need to have a disciplined practice of doing repeatedly until it becomes automatic. And then, so write down what you heard when you wanted to eat. What did your tummy ask for? So what was the tummy check-in? That's step number one. Step number two is, if I'm not hungry and I'm wanting to eat, what else was going on? This is what we start to look for, the other things that might have triggered that desire for food if it wasn't hunger. And one of the quickest way to do that is to ask yourself, what was the story in my head? What was going on for me in that moment when I was reaching for food? Now, there are a few other questions you can use to get to this place, but why not just this week, just write down tummy check-ins. What did I hear? And was I able to honor that? If the answer is no, and I started eating beyond hunger, or I didn't eat what my tummy asked for, that's information right there. If your tummy's saying, I need salmon and mashed potatoes, and you give it, I don't know, yogurt and berries or chocolate, hold on a second, what's that all about? Maybe you weren't able to. Okay, no problem. Maybe you're thinking in diet terms. Maybe you're being restrictive. Maybe you gave it a salad. There's information there. So what did your tummy want? Number one. Number two, if I'm not eating for hunger, I can feel I'm comfortably full. I've been eating what my tummy's asked for, but now I just want to eat anyway. What is going on? What is going on in my life? What's going on in my head? What's going on emotionally for me? What's been going on in my day? You start looking for what's tripping you up, that's making you want to escape some uncomfortable feelings, you're going to start winning. So that's broad, but if you start there, You're just taking a step back to go, is there something else that's happening here that's got nothing to do with hunger and nothing to do with food that might be making me want to eat to escape it? Every now and again, it's just habit. That's why it's helpful to work with somebody. It's hard to do this broadly, but when we work with somebody, we can start to see, that was habit. That was just because it was 5 o'clock and that's what I always used to do. But that was because I was exhausted, or that was because somebody just said something to me, or that was because I've been sitting with a memory of something that happened a few days ago that I can't shake, and I just want to forget about all of it. You see how this gets nuanced? It's never just the food. If it was just the food, it would be easy. You could meal plan, food journal, portion control, all of that stuff would work. But it's not about the food. And when we're food journaling, we're ignoring the bigger stuff. When am I not honoring my hunger? When am I not able to stop when I'm hitting the full signal? And what's going on there? Assuming it's not just lack of willpower, and it never is, what is really going on there? So instead of using your discipline to try and shut off your hunger or force you to stop when you fall, or force yourself to, power through discomfort, create the willpower, use your willpower and your discipline and your commitment to this practice to make these notes, to notice what's going on for you that has got nothing to do with hunger, to do the willpower of checking in with your tummy, to spend a minute actually doing that, to see what's really going on. And if it's the discipline of, if I'm not hungry, let me write down a few notes about what's going on in my world, and you will start to see patterns. You'll see them fast if you're working with somebody, and if you'd like to work with me, you can find the link below. All right, let's leave it there. You've got the idea. So food journals, in my experience, rarely work. If anything, they bring more shame and more self-criticism, and most importantly, they're not actually showing you where the real problems lie, because the real magic of this is in finding out what else is tripping us up if it's got nothing to do with food. Booyah Kasha. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you on Wednesday. If you watch this and you enjoy it, give us a like, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you want to know when I'm going live. And feel free to send me your questions for future lives. You can pop them in the comments or send me a pigeon. I'm more than happy if you have a specific question about something I spoke about today or in another live or whatever, just about intuitive eating and food freedom in general. Send me your questions and we'll turn it into a little live. All right, Freedom Family, have a wonderful day further. Here's to bringing a bit more food freedom into your life this week through committed practices, but the right practices that actually nudge the needle in the right direction. Have a great one, everybody. I'll see you on Wednesday. Adios.